Hello, friends. Welcome to the Coup Coach Cast with Jim Glogowski. I'm your host, Chad Birger. I'm joined today by co-host Sam Dooyema. We are going to review the Cougars' matchup against Augustana University and preview the final game of the regular season. We're sponsored by Atomic Wings and the Coup Football Legacy Association. And so let's go ahead and jump into the game with Sam.
So the Coup made the short trip down Grange Avenue to Augustana University on Saturday, and unfortunately came up just a tad short in their claim to try to reclaim the key to the city. Final score being 27-21, Vikings on top. It was 7-7 after that first quarter. Augie would tack on 10 at the end of the second quarter and head in with a 17-10 lead at halftime. USF would put a touchdown on the third, hold Augie to a field goal. After exchanging touchdowns there at the end. In the fourth quarter, the final score would end up being 27-21, Augie over USF. Before we jump into the individual scoring breakdown, we're going to bring Coach on. Coach, got a first taste of the key to the city game at Kirkby over. What do you got to say?
You're muted too, Coach. Make sure to unmute.
Yeah, what a great game. It's obviously disappointing to come up short. That's an understatement. Just really proud of our kids. I felt like we just had a couple opportunities that we missed on. And when you're playing in a game like that, they all matter. If I go back and do it over again, I don't know that we would call different plays and that kind of stuff, or we would prepare differently. I just think you get in the moment, and there's a couple opportunities where you tackle a guy here or you catch a ball there, and that's all the difference. And, there was a chance at the end, again, 4 or 5 more seconds on the clock here and there, and all of a sudden now you got one more toss to get maybe to the 50 and throw maybe a little bit more Hail Mary in the end zone, more so than the 15 or wherever it landed. But, all in all, what a great atmosphere. Lively is a way I'd probably, it was a very lively atmosphere. Certainly the crowd was into it. We had a phenomenal crowd. Really appreciate all of our supporters that came out. We might even outdrew them on that game. The tailgating was amazing, and they stole our cowbells, which made me make an impact. Our fans had their cowbells taken away. That was awesome. All the things that are petty and awesome and intense about a rivalry like that is exactly how it was.
Coach, I'm going to piggyback off that. I did enjoy the tailgate party. We had Ricky Quintana made some tacos out there. They were fantastic smoked tacos. Mr. Bork, Sioux City Heelan principal, made some pork chop sandwiches. Enjoyed that. And then there was brisket and pulled pork. All kinds of great college game day atmosphere out there. USF fans turned out, like you said. It was a little bit cold and rainy. You guys had a rough week off the field. What types of things did that kind of contribute to going into the game?
Yeah, I think it's kind of been touched on a little bit, and I think most people know by now that we had a couple young men in our program suffer some very severe major losses, and I think when those things happen, and again, being a little bit older, been through some things in my life, but nothing on the scale of what those two young men are going through. You try to embrace them, right? You try to support them. And that's the obvious things, right? Consoling them, talking to them and all that. But then it also, I think it also forces you to address the big picture, right? And the mortality and all those things that happen. And the things that happen in our program are pretty unusual. I spent almost 30 years as a college coach, and I don't think I've experienced something like that, let alone happening essentially twice in the same week. I think our kids rallied around those two young men and, embrace them, love them, and let them know we're here for them. As coaches, there's a lot of, not sure what to say, what is the right thing to say. There's no manual on that kind of stuff. But as we've kind of worked through this, and we've got a long ways to go, and those two young men still need our support and prayers and all that stuff moving forward. But, the game was certainly important, and I'm not here to say that, it dwarfed the game by any stretch. But I think when we got to Saturday, we were ready to go. We certainly worked through the 2 weeks, the bye week and all that stuff the best we could. But the reality of it is it gives you a pretty healthy dose of perspective We certainly wanted to win that game in the worst way. There's no doubt about that. We prepared as well as we could have, and give Augustana credit. They outplayed us. They won the game 27-21. And so we meet again. We'll see next time we get a chance to play them. We'll get a chance to hopefully redeem ourselves. But just really proud of our kids, the way our program, our administration, our alumni and all that reached out. These kids are going to need a lot of support, and we plan to do that for them moving forward. But yeah, there's no doubt about it that certainly had our attention, and you just want to try to be there for the kids, because in the big picture, a football game is really nothing compared to what those two young men are dealing with.
All right. Well, Sam, go ahead and take us through the scoring summary of the first half here.
Yeah, absolutely. USF would get the ball and march down the field, ending with an Adonis Hutchinson 29-yard pass from Camden Dean. Nick Hernandez PAT was good, capping off that 75-yard drive. And then Augie would get the ball, and on the first play that they got the ball, Jared Epperson rips off the 62-yard touchdown run, and the Jake Pacina PAT was good. It would be 7-7 there at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter was all Augie. USF had a couple drives, just couldn't quite put things together. Augie would get a 10-yard Jacob Remmer touchdown pass from Gunnar Hensley. The Pacina kick was good. And then towards the end of the second half would get a 20-yard field goal as well from Pacina, making it 17-7 heading into halftime. Chad, what are you guys thinking at halftime there on the field? And Coach, I got to say, if you're looking for a scapegoat, you can blame me. I was unable to make the game. I came down with strep throat over the weekend. And so as much I had the stream, I had Tom and Tim and Chad all queued up on the radio. So if you need a scapegoat, you're welcome to blame me. This was one alumni who couldn't even make the trip across town because I spiked the fever sitting at home with a sore throat. So feeling better today. Happy to be on the CooCast, but I will gladly take the blame so the team doesn't have to.
Well, we're always looking for an easy way out, so that we'll go ahead and take that one and run with it. But yeah, I don't know, Chad. You were obviously on the sideline. I felt like our kids, the energy level was high, and we were pretty locked in the whole first half. And just boy, that first drive was intense. We went right down the field and kind of overcame some third downs. And we talked about this as a staff. We might have the most third and long conversions of any team in the league. I feel like we've done a pretty good job of moving the chains.
Yeah, Coach, I just had a couple questions for you, regarding the first half. First off, you guys went down, set the tone on that first drive, scored that touchdown. Adonis Hutchinson, we'll review that later in Coach's Clicker segment here, but Adonis Hutchinson did a great job. Then when on the ensuing kickoff, you guys decided to kick to Isaiah Huber. He's obviously a dangerous weapon for Augustana, has shown that over the past, however many games here this season. What was behind that decision to kick to Huber in that game?
Well, I don't know if it was so much that, we were kicking to him or not kicking to him. The plan was to put the ball in the back of the end zone, obviously, and sometimes that doesn't work out. But we've done since the Mary game, I think we've gotten better at covering kicks. And, the way that the wind was blowing from right to left and all that, we felt like we could take advantage of the wind and put that thing in the left back corner of the end zone, and didn't quite get there. And it hung up a little bit, which is usually good for the coverage unit. And I think we just missed a tackle or two, and the kid made a play. And, I think he's a good player. He's a good return guy. He's very dangerous. We knew that as well as on punt returns. But I think for the most part, we kind of felt like we could probably cover the kick. And with the right to left wind, we thought it would kind of drift from right to left corner, and it just kind of hung up there a little bit. And probably as much as anything, it gave them a little bit of a chance to get a couple blocks and get going.
So then Epperson did score that first touchdown. We're going to break that down in the Coach's Clicker here as well. So we'll talk about that. But I did want to talk about, you had mentioned in the leading up to the game about controlling turnovers. There was one possession. It was the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, where you guys had a 7+ minute drive in there. And unfortunately, Cam Dean fumbled. Fortunate Augie didn't recover it, but then put you in a 2nd and 37 type situation and weren't able to overcome that. And then, the defense really stepped up there after that first Epperson touchdown run. But, putting them in a tough position there, you guys really managed the clock. And then how disappointing was it to not get anything out of that drive?
Yeah, I think there was a stretch there. We had the ball 3 times inside the 50 to start, I think. And, we were on the other side of that, 2 weeks ago at Wayne State, where they had the ball inside our own red zone time and time again. And we stopped them on defense. And I just felt like, the weird break was when Cam had the ball, he went to hand it off and it kind of nicked the elbow of the running back. And so he kind of bobbled it then. And then as he took off, because those guys attacked when they saw the ball get fumbled in the backfield. And then when they came off the edge, Cam spun out and then just got the ball knocked out as he's trying to escape. And so, there's all kinds of things you talk about, ball security and handoff and the mesh point where the ball is being exchanged on the fake. But pretty fortunate, honestly, at that point when the ball bounced back to Cam, because there was probably 3 or 4 Augie guys there and Cam got on the ball around midfield. I'll be honest, at that point, I was like, okay, we just need to get the ball punted and get back to set this over again. Because when you're sitting there at 2nd and 37, people say, just throw the fade or whatever. Well, yeah, that's great. But now maybe you're punting on our side of the field versus if we could just get a manageable chunk play, we tried to run the ball and get into some kind of a manageable 3rd down and maybe take a shot. But it didn't work out that way. But fortunately for us, Scotty came in and did a nice job of punting. And I just felt like that game, field position was probably a premium. And I just felt like if we could just tackle and not give up big chunks, I thought they'd have a hard time of putting together a 15 play drive. And that's kind of how that drive ended. But yeah, it was probably, as much as the game had a lot of turning points, that probably was one where we had a chance to kind of make some hay and take advantage of good field position, and just we weren't able to do it.
So, Coach, after that, you guys did punt. You did hold them to a punt. Really, things were looking very defensive there for quite a while, back and forth. A lot of punts in the second quarter, and then with about 2 minutes left in the first half, Augustana gets the ball back, and they're able to put something together where they have a long screen pass, and then they get a play action touchdown to the tight end and get the PAT. And so then there's 1:18 left, and you guys go 3 and out.
Yeah.
And give them the ball back, and then they're able to get a field goal right before half. What was the atmosphere or the morale like at halftime?
Well, so they go down to score, and it's 14-7, and we got the ball. And, we talked about this at Mankato, trying to be aggressive, and we went to win the football game. I wasn't really interested in just running the ball 3 times and taking it to halftime down 7, because they got the ball to start the second half. And so, my mindset as a head coach was, hey, we're going to get this ball. We're going to go down and score. We're going to tie it up going into halftime and feel pretty good being tied at halftime, or at least be 14-10 possibly. But it didn't work out that way. And so I think we threw the ball on first down and stopped the clock. And then, of course, now you're in a situation where, in hindsight, probably should have maybe ran it on first down and tried to get 5 or 6 yards and put the pressure on them to have to use their timeouts, because I believe they ended up with 3 timeouts when they got the ball back. And even then, they got the ball back and had to drive in a significant amount of the field. And I think they had the one long pass play where they kind of caught us in a 3-deep coverage, and our corner got hung up and he didn't get out fast enough, and they just kind of got the ball over the top. Kid made it a nice throw and catch. But we kind of bowled our neck a little bit down there, and I thought for the most part our short yardage defense was pretty legit. I think at one point in the first half we had 11 first downs to 1 for them. So it just seemed like everything we were trying to do, big picture, schematically, what we talked about for 2 weeks was kind of playing into our hands, and it was just a matter of a couple of big plays popped off for them, the Epperson run and the 51-yard pass down our sideline there going towards the scoreboard. But other than that, going into halftime at 17-7, and I was mad. I was. If you heard me outside the locker room, you probably could tell I was upset, because I felt like we were doing the things necessary to win the football game, but the fundamental things that maybe we took for granted, the tackling, the blocking, the basic coverage principle stuff, that we failed on that. And I just told our kids at halftime, I said, hey, there's no adjustments. Like, we're moving the football. We're getting stops on defense. There is no magical halftime speech that your coordinator is going to come in here and tell you something that, oh, okay, let's do that. We'll fix this problem and be up by 10. I said, we got to go out and get a stop. We got to go score. If we do that, and it's 17-14, now you put the pressure back on them. And that's exactly what we did. And that, to me, this entire football season, that series of events from the end of halftime to coming out, taking the field with determination and focus, and making that a 17-14 game, I think, to me, that is basically personified our football team this year. It's tough to do on the road. You got to do that. And maybe people don't see it that way. But to me, that's probably the biggest example of the progress our football program has made from last year to this year, is to be able to do that on the road in a hostile environment, down by 10. You have to get a stop. Then you got to turn around and go. It's one thing if they fumble the ball and we punch it in from 20 yards out, right? This was different. We got to stop. We drove the field. We scored. We ran the ball. I think we had almost 30-some yards in rushing on that drive. So just really, really, really feeling validated about our program to be able to do that in that moment. And then you turn it into a 3-point game, and then you're right there, right? They go down and score, and it's 13 or 17. Boy, now your win and your sales has been taken away, and now you're probably feeling a little different. But feeling pretty good at halftime, more fired up than upset. I guess it was upset. I'm more fired up and determined than, hey, this is right where we need to be. We had done too many good things in the first half to feel down and out. We needed to be fired up. And it's been a long time since I've gotten that fired up at halftime where I kind of said, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to do. This is why we do what we do. Let's go do it. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But I felt like whether it was the speech or the fieriness or whatever, our kids caught fire in the second half. And we played well.
Yeah. Sam, go ahead and take us through the second half scoring summary here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach, you said it best. And coming out of halftime, Augie got the ball, but USF getting the stop and answering with their own 11-play, 66-yard drive, ending on a 2-yard Dylan Rundigan touchdown run. And Hernandez putting up the PAT. And like you said, you guys are right back in it. Augie would tack on another field goal there at the end of towards the end of the third quarter with a 39-yard kick from Pacina. Heading into fourth quarter, still a one-possession game. Augie would rip off another Epperson long run, but USF would answer here. And Christian Janis hauling in a huge 20-yard touchdown pass from Camden Needing. Hernandez kick was good, making it 27-21. And Chad's going to probably break down some of these. You guys are right there. 6 points, get a defensive stop, but couldn't quite find the offense necessary. Still get one more stop, and like you mentioned earlier, couldn't quite put together the Hail Mary there at time, but the chances were all there. And just, I think, like you said, that next step in the program is always finally making that last step over the hump. But proud of the fight.
Yeah, and I think, you go through all these different stages throughout the course of the season, and you win games that you think you should win. You win some games that maybe it's a toss-up. Maybe you lose a game you thought you would win. And all these things make up our DNA of our football program. And, we're at the end of the season here, and whether we get to the playoffs or don't get to the playoffs, people will say, well, if you just would have won this game, but you know what? I look at it this way. The wins, the losses, those things all set the course for how you're going to handle the next week. And it's a crazy long season. It's 12 weeks. It's ups and downs, and staying the course is important. In a football game, it's just a microcosm of the season. And in that third quarter, when we closed it to 17-14 and they're up 20-14, that's a huge stop for the defense. And then I think we had an opportunity to go down and take the lead 21-20. And we drove the field again. And we if the ball is another foot out in front, instead of tipped, the kid catches the tip and that ends the drive, right? But you're talking about driving down and take the lead in that game. And then to be able to respond after they score and go down and score. And we overcame some incredible obstacles, some tough penalties, and to have, Christian Janis, our young kid, who really I thought took a huge step forward in the last 2 weeks. He's really gotten better. He's really taken to heart what we talked about taking that next step. He's a guy that played as a true freshman, and now he's a true sophomore. And to go up and make that catch, he made a similar play against Winona last year where he kind of took the ball away from a kid. And to do it in that game, in that clutch situation, was big time. And then Mark makes the huge catch to get down there in the drive, and that was the last snap he took in the game. He had an ankle. But for those guys to step up, and then, we lost Carter on the last 2 drives of the game. So the other guys had to step up. So, I just think that when 2 of your probably top receiving targets at tight end and receiver go down and other kids got to step up, everybody has injuries. I understand that. And we dealt, Ben Peterson didn't play. He's done for the year, our starting right guard. And everybody has injuries. I get that. But when you see the kids step up and physically take advantage of the opportunities and help you put yourself in position to win games, that's where you know that the program is making steps and strides forward. And that's what I took from the game. And, even to block the field goal at the end, what a great job. Give ourselves another chance. And so you keep giving yourself chances, and eventually you're going to capitalize. And that's not just in a game. That's the entire outlook on a season. Just keep on fighting, keep on playing. And we've done that for 10 weeks. And now we find ourselves in a situation going into the last week of the season with still the potential to talk about playoff opportunities, which we want to win conference titles. We want to We want to win our county, right? We want to be the best team in the county, the best team in the city, the best team in the league, the best team in the region, the best team in the country. Like that's the natural progression. And so we didn't get that done this year, which is really disappointing. I feel for our seniors. I feel for all the kids that have stuck with the transition. I feel for our alums. That's a big game. I'm not oblivious to that stuff. It's bothersome. It hurts. I'll say that publicly. It hurts to lose that game. Walking off that field was one of the most gutting losses I've had in a long time, especially as a head coach. But sometimes adversity is really necessary, and if you're going to grow and move forward, and I think we'll grow and move forward from it.
All right, Coach. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the Coach's Clicker here, and we're going to review some of the plays that we discussed earlier, and just kind of talk us through what's happening. So the first one we have here is the first touchdown by the Cougars, and so this is in the first quarter, first drive of the game. There's 10:52 left on the clock. You guys come out. You have 2 receivers on each side. And then Bubba Tan goes in motion.
Yeah, trying to get Bubba more involved. He's a special talent. He's got a bright future, and trying to get some play action here to get the linebackers drawn up. And if you look on the right-hand side, I think this is where Adonis kind of slips underneath the backers, and it's really a nice throw by Cam. And this is something that we've tried to get more involved in our passing attack, is kind of bringing the misdirection stuff and challenging the backside of the coverage to stay home when the front side route drags the corner and safety across the field, if that makes sense. So as Adonis is streaking across the field, that opposite receiver is dragging the corner of the safety's attention, and then it's a matter of Cam dropping this ball in. And so, again, starts with the play action. Now, the downside to this play is it takes a long time because you got to protect up front. So give credit to our offensive line that bought enough time. We got Matt Grisbowski's in there at running back that does a really good job of pass protection for us, and just really good protection up front. You got to win your one-on-one battles. You force their all-star safety, Peyton Buckley, to have to occupy Bubba on the swing route. So you bring him out of the mix, and then you hopefully can sneak the safety or sneak the receiver back underneath the safety, and that's exactly what happens with Adonis here.
They even had a little bit of a line stunt down here on the bottom side. The defensive end caves down inside, and the tackle comes around, and the offensive line did a good job of picking that one up.
Yeah, and you guys know O-line play really well. I mean, you got to be able to handle twists and stunts. And the one thing about Augustana is they're very solid football team. You're not going to out-scheme them, right? You got to be able to take advantage of things. And there's certain times in a game versus certain coverages that things are going to be open, but you have to be clued into that and be able to have time. So it all has to marry together. And then on top of that, after he makes the catch, athleticism now takes over. And Adonis, this is why I think he's got a chance to be a special player for us. This kid's only a true sophomore. He played last year. I mean, right now he's 10 yards out. He's got to make a play to get in the end zone, and he does. He's got the athleticism to catch it, stay on his feet, juke a kid, and then outrun a kid. And so, to me, those little snippets right there show you the type of talent we have. And look at it. You go back to the Minot game, right? I mean, I love it. Every week it's gotten more and more exciting when we score. And I just, and you guys probably around our guys a little bit more than most, but if you're around our kids on a day-to-day basis, they're such great kids. They really want to be great. And I want them to enjoy success when they have it.
All right. Celebrate every win, guys. Not just the big wins. Every win you get, celebrate those, right?
That's always a reason to celebrate.
That's what the Chiefs are saying this morning.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's move on to the next play. So this is after the kick return. You can see that the Vikings have the ball at the 38-yard line, and I'm going to pause it right here in now.
All right.
Okay.
So this is extremely frustrating. But if you look at the point of attack, Dawson Rabe is right there. He's about ready to make the tackle on the kid, okay? And just to the left of Dawson, you'll see the white helmet of Francis Kumi engage with their offensive lineman. So we have a line stunt on, to your point. We were just talking about that. And we're asking our defensive end, which is Francis here, to get down inside. And he just gets hung up just a little bit on this offensive lineman. You can kind of see – we could argue whether or not the offensive lineman hands are outside grabbing our defensive end, but he's kind of engulfing him a little bit. And Francis kind of gets stood up. And at this point, Francis is thinking there's no way that thing's going to go back inside because the running back had jumped to the right so far. Well, on the flip side, Andy Henson, the middle linebacker, is scraping inside out, and he's just breaking down. And as they're coming to block Andy with the tight end or receiver, and the other receiver's going to block the safety, now number 8, Joseph Sapp, has got to replace on those 2 blocks, because if your guy's not going out for a pass, he's blocking, now you got to get engaged in the run fit. And I'll be honest with you, the kid, I don't know if we have the end zone shot on this, but the kid's got great vision, Epperson, and give the kid credit. There's not many backs in the league that can do this, because Andy redirects, falls back inside, And right now, that gap where Joseph, number 8's got to close that space down is just a little bit too wide, and Epperson's just a little bit too quick, and he cuts back inside and bounces back out, and Joseph just is too wide on the fit. And this is why you're playing a special player. And again, give him a lot of credit. He's a really good player. He's back for an extra year. He was a good player last year, but his ability to make us pay for just being a little bit off was the difference in the game. And I think he had a career game. It's the best game he's ever had in his entire career. He's the all-time leading rusher. And so the way I look at it is their all-time leading rusher had to have the best game of his career in order for them to beat us. There's no solace in losing, but at least you made him beat us and play the best game he could possibly play to beat us. And you got to tip your hat to him. I can't say enough about, even though they're our rival and there's probably some bad blood between Augie USF and the rivalry and all that kind of good stuff, I still respect, as the old saying goes, game respects game, right? I respect the fact that the kid had the ability to make that play and they executed. So tip our hat and let's play the next snap.
All right. Well, later on in the half, this is the one that you brought up on the post-game show and then talked about it here earlier. This is that screen pass with just under 2 minutes to go in the first half. It was 7-7 at this point.
Yeah. This is a nice setup by them, and we kind of had an anticipation of the screen game, and probably more so in the perimeter and less tailback screen stuff. But the frustrating thing about this is right now with Andy 32 and Brennan Holt number 5, if you rewind it just a little bit, we've got 2 guys along with Isaiah Ward number 0 who's pursuing. We have 2-3 guys here that are unblocked. So right now you're feeling pretty good that you're going to minimize this gain. And I think the mistake that we made is we assumed, right, that he's going to stay front side and go out the sideline to the front side. And when he cuts this thing back, I think it kind of catches Isaiah off guard, and he's just not quite there. And number 5 is anticipating the running back breaking to the sideline and not making sure that he pushes him to the sideline. So on the backside cutback here, number 5 has got to make sure at the very minimum this guy runs to our sideline. You can never allow the guy to get back across your face. And then if you look at number 20, Garrett, he sees him cutting back. He has to make sure whatever happens that he has to gut back inside. And you can never let him get back across your face, because when this is what you call getting out, he's out the gate now, right? The horse is out of the gate. Now you got to run him down. And you watch the pursuit by both Francis and by, our linebacking core. I mean, these guys are hustling, and we have talented guys who can run. As fast as Jared is, and give a lot of respect to Jared Epperson, he's not fast enough to outrun our entire defense. And we do catch him. But because we allowed him to attack our leverage and get back across our face, at the worst, this should have been a 30-yard gain at the worst, right? And instead, it's a disaster from a standpoint of changes field position. And, you got him backed up at 2nd and 10 on the 10-yard line. And the crazy part is on first down, we're about 6 inches away from a strip sack. So I told that to the guys, man, he strips us, it bounces, whatever. That's just the way game goes. But good players make good plays and give those guys credit. Again, I can't say enough. I have a lot of respect for Augie. They made some big-time plays, and we made them earn it, and they did. They capitalized.
So like we said earlier, you guys go into the half, you're down 10 points. They get the ball to come out of the second half. And this is the point where I think this year's team is quite a bit different from last year's team coach, because you guys step up in this 3rd and 6 here, something like that. And,
I'm starting to half off 3rd and 6, and they get into their 2-by-2 formation here, right, with 4 wide receivers, then running back. And once again, we're thinking screen. So this time, number 5, Brennan does a great job of occupying the back. Now, if you just watch this right here, watch, the ability to be able to catch this route and make this running back hesitate on his cut kind of closes off this window over the hash mark. So when he goes to throw the ball, this window kind of condenses because Brennan's right there, and then he's got to fit that thing in between. So that's not available. You see what I'm getting at right there, the lower ball. So he's got no other option to take the deep shot on number 4. But the ball was probably intended to hit that dig route over the middle at about 5-6 yards. But Brennan's on top of the running back. We're shallowing. We're chasing the shallow on the in route. So we take away the intermediate stuff right there. He can't throw it where the umpire is. And now he rips the ball down the sideline where we have our half defender here. And it's just a really good play on the ball. And again, Garrett Hoffman, that's a big time play. Young man's only a sophomore. He started all the games last year for us, and now is a redshirt sophomore. So right now you got 20's a redshirt sophomore, number 9's a sophomore, number 32's a redshirt freshman, right? Number 11's a redshirt freshman. So most of the core guys, right? Number 97's a sophomore, number 95 is a sophomore. the guys that are out there making plays, most of the 90% of these guys are coming back next year. That's exciting to me. And this is a big time moment. We'll learn from it. And the screen didn't go our way, but this one does, right? So, I mean, that's kind of the nature of development.
Yeah. And so that was big because that led to a Cougar touchdown. So this is the ensuing drive after that one. And
yeah, really good response here, right? Taking our time, running the football, being physical, really good cut. The one thing Dylan Ruddigan, I think, has really improved over this season is if you go back and watch the beginning of that play, he does a nice job of sticking his foot in the ground and bouncing to the right. And then at the last minute, he sticks his foot in the ground again and presses vertical and scores the touchdown. Whereas 6-7 weeks ago, he might have tried to bounce this thing outside. But watch right here. He gets the ball. He puts his left foot in the ground. Then right there, his right foot in the ground. And he cuts inside of 51. If you look at number 8, Peyton Buckley, that's their safety. As he's coming over the top, if Dylan bounces this thing outside, it's probably a tackle for loss. But Dylan really does a nice job of sticking his foot in the ground. You can see Brady Copel's fired up. You got Mark Leonard coming over here. And this is a big-time score here to get in the end zone. And that's just being physical and just trying to power your way into the end zone. So give him credit for that.
Yeah, that looked like a little inside zone, one of our old inside zone type plays.
Yeah.
You kind of have a power look because that tight end comes back to block across the other side. But the offensive
100%.
line all steps to their left on this one.
And really, it's just nothing more than, to your point, it's just a split zone play. The offensive line's all blocking to the left. Mark comes across to seal the backside, and then he's got to hit this thing tight right off the zone block, right? But, again, he can't bounce that thing outside because if he goes wide right, the opposite direction the O-line's going, he's not going to get the benefit of that crushing, sweeping action of the offensive line from right to left. And you got to get your foot vertical, and you got to put your shoulder pads down and get in the end zone. He did that.
All right, Coach. The last play I have on this for this week, it was the Janis touchdown near the end of the game. Now, this one, if you watch, Janis goes up and gets it. But the play right before this, I don't know if you can see the guy standing in the sweatshirt down here right in the end zone there. That was me. The play right before this, Janis ran pretty much the same route, and Cam threw at like an out at about the 3 or 4 yard line and missed him, a little bit of miscommunication. And I said on the postgame show, it's like almost like Janis went back to the huddle and said, no, throw the fade. I got this, you know. And,
we work a lot of, and you hear a lot about this nowadays, the back shoulder fade, right? So it's a very similar release by the wide receiver, but the quarterback intentionally throws it short and back to the sideline so the receiver can stop, plant, and come back. So on the back shoulder, right? On the 7, if you're looking at his jersey right now, throw it to the 7, and he stops, kind of washes the DB by, and that's what happened. Cam thought he was running the back shoulder fade on the play before, and I remember, you're right, Christian comes off the field, and he's kind of like animated, like, I go, hey, just relax, right? He just didn't see it. We'll get it. So the very next play, we come back, and he's like, I got this, dude. I go, okay, just relax. I know. But it doesn't matter. You can't yell at the quarterback. We're not going to do that, right? So you talk about culture and program and how we're going to act. That's all. You're always coaching that stuff. So I go, we're coming back to you. And I talked to him on Tuesday and Wednesday last week. We were in some drill work. And I said, you need to take the next step. When you get your opportunities, you need to be violent and be physical. And that's what you got to do. And he attacked the ball earlier in the game on a comeback route that was a catch that they said was incomplete. And then this play, and we talked about this during our drill work this week about being aggressive to the football. And Christian's got a lot of talent. He can really run. He's got a great body type for him. Probably reminds you of some of those guys back in the day, the Alex Anderson types and those guys those longer body kids. And what a great job. And if you go back and watch this one more time, the protection's pretty good. They actually try to jump over the block by Dylan here, number 22. So they're blitzing. And the thing that most people don't realize, they watch the catch, but they don't realize the quarterback here. Watch the quarterback. We can't block everybody. So you got to make a decision. Someone's going to come scot-free on this blitz, and it's a 1-2-3 throw the ball, right? And if you go back to the beginning, Cam takes a shot here from the right blitzing backer. Dylan picks up the left guy in his face, and here comes the guy, puts his helmet and shoulder pads right on his ribs, and you got to lay that ball out there. And then to have him go get the ball, this is a big-time play. And that's the future of our program. Those guys will be back, and that's a big-time play. It's a one-score game, and more importantly, it's a 6-point game. A touchdown wins it with 11 minutes to go. And who knew? We still had 2 or 3 more possessions left in this game, and we just you gotta make hay when you can, and we just keep up a little bit short.
Look how fired up John Hart is at the end of this one. He's down here at the corner.
Oh yeah. John's pro coup. He's pro coup. He's all about the coup. He's
fired up. Couch. This one, I was fired up, Coach.
Yeah, it was. I I was too, man. And I don't know if I was fired up because I was surprised. I was more like, yeah, after overcoming all those penalties, you feel like you're fighting the world right in that corner, right? The crowd's screaming, you're getting a couple penalties that are questionable and all that stuff. And to see those guys rise up and convert is just, it's awesome.
All right. Well, Sam's going to run us through the statistics from the game on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll recap here before we turn the page, and pretty even game across the board. And we kind of discussed really what the difference was, and it was really those big plays. And I think that plays out here in the stats. Total yards 402 for the Coup to 487 for Augustana. Passing yards 285 for USF, 271 for Augustana. Rushing yards 117 for the Coup, 216 for Augie. Penalty yards, 7 accepted for 44 yards for USF to 5 and 45 yards for Augie. First downs, 24 for USF, 17 for Augie. Third downs, this one sticks out at me, but again, speaks really to the nature of the game. USF was 8 for 15 on their third down conversions. Augie was only 2 for 10. Problem was they scored a lot early in the downs, and that was really the difference maker in a lot of the game. And when we see that too at the time of possession, Coach said that too. Move the ball, and there was a lot of great things. 35 minutes to Augie's nearly 25 minutes. And as we look over here at the individual statistics, Cam Dean going 23 for 41, 285 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, had the 1 pick as well, and also rushed for 15 carries for 53 yards. Dylan Runnigan had 11 carries for 40 yards in that touchdown. Carter Slykehouse was clutch before we had to go out of the game with an injury with 8 receptions for 83 yards. Adonis Hutchinson with that early touchdown as well, 3 receptions, 49 yards and a touchdown. And then Christian Janis as well, 2 receptions and 34 yards and a touchdown, leading the way for scoring for the Coup.
Sam, I'm going to point out that I feel like half of Slakehouse's catches and 2 of Adonis's catches were, I think they were third down conversions on that one. So
yeah,
played by those guys.
Absolutely, and that's really why. I mean, Carter seeing 8 receptions for 83 yards, and then when you didn't have him at the end of the game, I still, that sticks in my mind of like he was just money early on to keep extending those drives over and over again. And so hopefully he can get well and be ready to go on Saturday. As we flip it over to the defensive side here, Matt Gehring leading the way with 7 total tackles, followed there by Andy Henson. Cade Morse, Connor Aldrich, and Garrett Hoffman all having 4 tackles, as well as Dawson Rabe, Isaiah Ward, Alex Maxim, and then Brennan Holt and Brady Crawford also leading the way here in the stat line. You'll take a look. Brennan Holt also had those 2 tackles for loss that were huge. And we also see Andy Henson, Cade Morse, Isaiah Ward, and Alex Maxim well get some tackles for loss. Really just sound defense across the board, across the day, except for just some of those big plays, but that's football.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think 5 of the top 6 tacklers in that game are back. You know, Connor graduates, obviously, senior day coming up, and then offensively, look at the names on there. And honestly, I know, not to be a spoiler here, but Cam Dean ends at the player of the game, but it probably could have been shared between Adonis and Janis as well. You know, Carter obviously had 8 catches, but I felt like Carter's going to have to probably have 8 to 10 to 12 catches for us in that game, and Cam was going to have to run the ball 15 to 20 times and all that. And we're a better offense when we're firing on all cylinders. And at the end of the stats, looking at that, the 100-yard difference in rushing probably the difference. We dominated time of possession. The third down is really crazy that they were only 2 for 10. So, you know, stats tell the story, not the whole story, but all in all, certainly some things to be proud of, some things we've got to get better at. And, you know, we'll see if we can improve this week.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Atomic Wings. Attention, USF Cougar fans. There's a new favorite spot for wings in Sioux Falls. Atomic Wings is open at 1502 East 69th Street in Sioux Falls, just north of the USF Stadium. Atomic Wings offers customers fresh, never frozen, natural, and hormone-free chicken wings, hand-tossed in 14 proprietary sauces. A classic menu, a welcome dining experience, and a commitment to quality. You can watch sports and enjoy wings and have a cold one at the self-serve beer station. They have a menu that includes traditional wings, boneless wings, chicken tenders, sandwiches, flatbreads, and salads. Also choose waffle fries, onion rings, mac and cheese, jalapeno poppers, mozzarella sticks, tater tots, or sweet potato fries as a side. And don't forget the dessert. Deep fried Oreos is an option that you can't get anywhere. Let's go ahead and get something for everyone in the entire family at Atomic Wings. You can order at atomicwings.com or come in. It's located at 69th Street, just north of the USF Stadium. Perfect for pregame tailgates or postgame celebrations with friends and family. I know I'm excited. Last home game coming up this week, guys, and I'm excited to go get some Atomic Wings, bring it home for the entire family, enjoy some wings, some of those proprietary sauces, the sides, the deep fried Oreos. Just get the whole experience.
We can all agree on that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and bring up our Atomic players of the game.
Yeah, I think offensively, Cam played a really solid football game, and I think sometimes we take for granted some of the things he does, the escapability and all that. I thought for the most part he made some really good decisions, and his feet consistently keeping plays alive. Some of the throws he made pretty clutch, but again, Carter Slykehouse had a really good day. I thought Adonis and Christian really showed up, and I think those guys, moving forward, really a bright future for the program with those two cats, along with Hank Brown. Hank's another guy that try to get him more involved as we move into the future here. But defensively, we kind of settled on Cade and Matt. I think Matt's been a really, really productive player for us all year long. Cade really made a heck of a play on a bubble screen and really kind of scared them out of the bubble screen game a little bit. And then just a really solid football player for us. A freshman and a sophomore, very exciting. And then this is kind of a special one, the big man, Dawson Rabe. He's the shield, affectionately known as the meat shield on punt team, the big guys that protect the punter. He chased down number one on the punt and knocked him out of bounds. And that play alone, that effort for a 6'1", 305-pound dude to run across the field and chase down their returner and save the touchdown, won him the special teams player of the game. I thought Scotty punted really well, but give a shout out to the meat shield and more specifically Dawson on his coverage ability.
Tom affectionately called them a massive humanity on the broadcast. So they did get a shout out, actually, even not knowing this. So that's great to hear. Go get
it was awesome.
Raby.
I tried to spread it out a little bit and give the guys some love, but it's always a big moment when they find out who the Atomic Wings player of the games are. And then we also have as you guys know, the almost Atomic Wing player of the game. That's only the exclusive rights of the team on Sunday. The AA Wing player of the game. But we have some fun with it. And like I said, pretty disappointing loss. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you it was a very somber locker room. But again, keep it in perspective. Keeping an eye on the future and looking forward to finish strong at home on Senior Day.
I'll work with Atomic Wings and see if we can get a meat shield platter on the menu coming up here.
That would be something. Now that would be progress. That would be true program progress.
We'll see what we can do. All right. Well, let's go ahead and quickly just take a look at the NSIC standings. You can see Augustana remains in first place after the win on Saturday. They're at 8-1 in the conference. Minnesota State 7-2. Bemidji State does jump up to tie Sioux Falls now at 6-3, and I think that they hold the tiebreaker. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Northern State's up to 6-4 in conference, but I believe their conference season is over. I think their entire season is over here, so they're not going to do any more climbing there. Duluth is up to 5-4, and they play Mankato this coming week, so interesting matchup there. And then Wayne State, Moorhead, a little bit lower than people expected them before the season. But you can kind of see the rest of the conference standings as they are. Our good friend Matt Witwicky runs a Sunday show for D2 football, and I did get their Super Region 4 rankings. Now, this is unofficial. This is not the official NCAA playoff, but this is the Super Region 4 rankings from d2football.com. Go ahead and follow those guys if you would like. But you can see CSU Pueblo is on top with 9-1 record. They've got all the metrics up here. I'm not going to pretend to know what all these metrics are and how to go through them. You can talk to Whit or listen to the NSIC Weekly show from a couple of weeks ago and talk about all that. They've got all kinds of PIs and KPIs and DPIs and OPIs and all kinds of stuff going on there. But you can take a look at this, but you can see that Sioux Falls is right now in the 8th spot. Bemidji State's in the 7th spot. Bemidji State does host Augustana this Saturday. So it's going to be a huge game up at Bemidji, right on the shores of Lake Bemidji, up in Paul Bunyan country up there. And so make sure to keep an eye on that. But Sioux Falls really, I mean, you guys win, you still got a shot here, Coach.
Yeah, and I think just certainly taking a look at that stuff, it's obvious, it's relevant. There's just so people out there understand, there's basically 3 conferences in our region: the Lone Star Conference, the Rocky Mountain, and the Northern Sun. And of those 3 conferences, 7 teams get invited to the national playoffs. The number 1 seed in the region gets a first round bye, and then the other 6 teams slug it out to see who plays on to the next round. So, yeah, you want to be in the top 7. I think for us right now, it's probably pretty safe to say that Pueblo, Augie are locks. They're in. Probably would also venture to guess that Western Colorado would be a lock at 9-2, even if they lost. So, you're talking about spots, right, getting eaten up and what's left. The interesting thing is, if you want to know, I guess the bottom line is who are we cheering for this weekend, right? We're cheering for Duluth to knock off Mankato. That would put Mankato at 8-3. We're definitely cheering for Augie to beat Bemidji, right? I mean, obviously that's where, as much as that might pain the alums and all of us, but we got to be big Augie fans for at least 3 hours on Saturday, because if that happens, then Bemidji would be 7-4, and of course we've got to cheer for Sioux Falls, and we've got to take care of business on Saturday. Aside from that, we really probably need Western Colorado to beat Mesa, because they're in the mix there, and then we certainly would like to see. I think the winner of Central Washington and Western Oregon is going to get in no matter what. So bottom line, if Augustana beats Bemidji, if Duluth, that might bode well for us, I guess. I don't know exactly how the numbers work, but common sense would tell you that would be good for us. Usually on Monday afternoons, Monday early evening, the new regional rankings come out. So where we're at going into this weekend probably doesn't matter. I would guess that Bemidji and Sioux Falls will be right next to each other. The challenge is that right now they have the tiebreaker over us. So obviously, if they go ahead and if they win this weekend and knock off Augustana, that's probably the end of it for us. And like I told our players, hey guys, let's not worry about what we can't control. We're going to earn what we get. If we get in, then we earned it. We won enough games. We did the right things. We won. If we don't get in, then we earn the right to watch. We didn't earn the right to get in. So last year we were just limping to the finish line. This year, we are trying to get to 8-3. Number one thing I told our players is 3-8 to 8-3. That sounds a heck of a lot better than 3-8 to 7-4. So that's the number one focus. Take care of business, control what we can control. We have no control over what happens across the country. We had the ability to control our own destiny last week. We unfortunately were unsuccessful, and we no longer control our own destiny. So we need some help. Is it realistic? I don't know. I guess that depends. I don't know enough about it. I don't follow the other teams outside of our league close enough to even know who the players are or what. I don't even know. But I do know this, that if we don't take care of business on Saturday, if we are not willing to put in the time and effort and prepare for Southwest Minnesota State, it's a moot point. So we're going to control what we control, prepare the way we can, and then based on what happens on Saturday night and see what happens on Sunday. And if we're fortunate to come out on top on Saturday and be victorious and earn the right to be in the conversation, then we'll see what happens, and we'll be excited either way.
Well, speaking of Saturday, USF hosts Southwest Minnesota State University, the Mustangs, Saturday, November 16th at Bob Young Field in Sioux Falls. Kickoff is scheduled for 1:00 p.m. You can watch on the NSIC network or listen on 98.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. or KWSN.com. 12:30 pregame show with Tom Frederick, Tim Hyatt, and Chad Birger. Heard of that guy before. Coach, this is something where it's the last home game of the season. You guys do senior day. You want to talk a little bit about some of the seniors that you have on the squad this year?
Yeah, what a great group of guys. It's funny, when I first got the job, there weren't a lot of guys that there was a lot of guys that didn't stick around for one reason or another before I ever got the job and showed up on the day one of work. And these are the guys that have stuck with it. Last year was the first losing season in 20 plus years of Cougar football. These guys were a part of it. To stick around. Many of these gentlemen could have graduated and moved on. Many of them, nearly 15, 16 of them, came back to attend graduate school to try to make it right, to try to get this program back to where it is today. And I'll never, ever be able to thank them enough for the sacrifices. We've got a couple guys in our football team that are they're considered senior exceptions. So in other words, they do not have to take a full course load because they're in their last semester of college and they're going to graduate. Well, the downside is they cannot receive a football scholarship if they're not a full-time college student, but they can play because it's the only class they need to finish. And so some of these guys are paying their own way. They're paying to go to school and they're not on scholarship. You would assume these seniors are all on scholarship. They're not. So these guys have sacrificed a lot. They stayed here all summer and worked their tails off. They've been committed to the program. They've supported the mission of what we're trying to accomplish, and can't say enough about all of them. And there's guys like Carter Slykehouse that have been here forever from locally. And then there's guys like Isaiah Ward from California who's been here for just about a year. You got guys like Adam Mullen, who I can't say enough about, who was a starting quarterback, who has been – he was probably one of the more distraught kids on Saturday after the loss. He knew how much that game meant. He's been a part of those games. And to be a consummate team leader and a captain – I've never had a guy be named team captain when he was no longer the starting quarterback. I mean, but that's the kind of kid he is, you know. So as you look through this, there's a couple of these guys that could end up coming back because they have some eligibility left. But for the most part, we'll have roughly 20, 24, somewhere between there, seniors that are going to get recognized. And, Cal Botsford has the potential to come back if he wants. Jack has the potential to come back if he wants. But for the most part, most of these guys are done. But yeah, it's such great kids from all over the country that have bought into a process and been phenomenal to work with, and just really, really appreciative of everything they've done to make this program what it is today. And we've come a long ways in the last, 12 months. 12 months ago, we were 3-7, going up to Marshall on a very dreary Saturday, if you remember. And the feeling I had in the post game with Tom and Tim. Finishing 3-8, we got beat 28-10 that day by Southwest Minnesota State a year ago. So that's all the motivation we have and we need. We've done a fairly good job of redeeming ourselves from the teams we played the previous year, and we've got another week to do that. We need to get out to a fast start, and we need to be able to be physical and be focused. And those are the things that we'll touch on all week long. But I could talk on and on and on about these seniors, but just a great group of guys that certainly will be missed, but their legacy will live on as far as getting this place back on track.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I get to know these guys really, really well. I'm down on the sideline for every game, but Cole Campbell and I, before every game, we have a little talk, a little chat, and I'm going to miss a lot of these guys. Adam Mullen usually comes up and gives me a big hug as he comes on the field. Ray Williams, Lennox, local guy. Some of these guys, it's going to be weird. Having their last home game this Saturday, but looking forward. If you need a reason to come out to the game, it's to cheer these guys on. These guys that have stuck through everything. I mean, these guys have been through COVID. If you think about it, I mean, they missed an entire season of football.
Yeah,
and they've been around, stuck through that. They've been through a coaching change. They've been through a 3-8 season. I mean, they've been through a lot. Get out and support these guys this Saturday.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, this program was 7-0 and ranked in the top 10 of the country, and lost 3 of 4. Coach change happened. They were coming off a COVID year. They went 3-8, right? They stuck it out. They didn't transfer. They didn't leave. They stayed here to make it better. And the group last year really started that. Hey, you guys need to stick together. That I give a lot of credit to those guys last year, and we didn't have very many of them. But it's going to be really weird when somebody else is wearing number 7 or wearing number 1, right? And that happens in college football. People, bodies leave the uniforms, the numbers stay typically, but you don't forget the faces and the impact they made. And they're my guys, and they always will be my guys. I love all of them. They've all had huge impacts. A guy like Cole Campbell and Adam Mullen made more of an impact on this program than most people ever know, because they just look at the stat line. And the reality of it is there's so much more to these guys than numbers or carries or catches or passes. And so love them all. Going to miss them. It'll be weird. At some point in the next week or 2 or 3 or whatever, this team changes forever. And there will never be another 2024 Cougar football team that's exactly the same. And so with that in its own right, let's go out and do the right things that we need to do to give these guys a win and walk out of the Bob a winner the last time they play on the field. Because no matter what, this is most certainly the last football game these guys will ever play at the Bob.
All right, Coach. Well, this Saturday, we mentioned Southwest Minnesota State. They're 0-10 on the season, 0-9 in the NSIC. But you mentioned beat USF last year in the regular season finale. Head coach Scott Underwood, we're very familiar with him around these parts. It's his third season as head coach of the Mustangs. Before that, he was the head coach at St. Cloud State before they foolishly decided to drop their football program. That's Chad Birger's editorial, at me if you want to. And then before that, he spent time, at various other spots, including USF defensive coordinator from 1993 to 96 on the first national championship team. So we're very familiar with him around the Sioux Falls area here. But what do we expect to see on Saturday from the Mustangs, Coach?
Well, number one, I think that they've had a tough season, some injuries, some youth inexperience, transition and building the roster. He's been there 1 year longer than I've been here. But they have some playmakers. There's no doubt. I know that as far as those coaches, Coach Underwood is a fantastic college football coach. He's a fantastic person. He's always been super, super cordial to me. Their offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators are really good coaches, good friends of mine, guys that I always see in the summertime, look forward to catching up. I just think that schematically, when you watch them, they're certainly very solid schematically. I think sometimes their fits or their tackles or catching a ball, just the execution, right, like anything else. But they got another game left too. It's a senior day for their guys too. Their seniors are playing their last game, and so there's a lot of emotion in this game, and there is no tomorrow and all that stuff. And so they're going to sell out. I expect that football team to come in just like last year. They played with a lot of juice last year. We did not match their juice last year up there, and I do not expect them to come in here and lay down. I expect them to come and prepare all week long, knowing those coaches. They will not allow those kids to quit. They haven't quit. They play hard. They just had some tough breaks, and they've made some plays. And last week was their best offensive outputting they've had all year. So I think if they stay away from turnovers, that's the other thing. A lot of teams have been fortunate to get some bad breaks on the offensive side from them, and they've turned the ball over and scored some defensive touchdowns. We'd love to have that happen, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. So, yeah, we try to just stay focused on the task at hand, and what their record is or who they've played or haven't played, it doesn't really matter. We've got to go out there and play a solid football game if we want to be successful.
All right, Coach. Anything else to add about the upcoming matchup this Saturday?
No, just really appreciate all the support and the prayers we've gotten in the last couple of weeks from everybody. We're working through it. Our kids are going to work through this for a while, and we had a really tough break on Saturday, but that doesn't define us. And I hope to see everybody at the Bob and for one last home game here and take care of business and get to 8-3, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Want to give a shout out, Sam, playing sick today. This is like your Jordan flu game. You're powering through, doing a good job. So
shout out modern medicine. The amoxicillin's doing its work. So we
lost him for a second there earlier in the broadcast. I saw it went blank. I thought he had to do, I don't know what was going on. I thought we had to maybe, get some fluids in him, get some IVs in him real quick or something.
We're doing all right. We're getting healthy. We're going to be healthy for Saturday. We got to be out there.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's wrap up talking about the Sioux Football Legacy Association. The mission of the CFLA is to bring alumni, family, friends, and supporters together to help equip the USF football program with the resources necessary to continue its winning legacy. For more information, visit www.coulegacy.com, or you can click on the QR code if you're watching on YouTube or the Facebook. This Saturday, final home game, Sioux Football Legacy Association will be hosting the tailgate party, as they always do. And from what I've heard, the early indications are we're planning on having a return of the chili cook-off. So if you're a chili fanatic and you want to come out and try the different chilies, or you want to enter the cook-off, watch the Sioux Football Legacy Association or USF Tailgate Facebook or Twitter pages for more information. Excited about that. I think I'm like a two-time runner-up of the chili cook-off in previous years, but no guarantees in anything. Every game's got to be for the win here. So looking forward to that this Saturday. All right. Well, special thanks today to Tom Frederick, Tim Hyatt, Matt Witwicky over at D2Football.com and the USF Athletic Department. For Coach Jim Glogowski and my co-host Sam Dooyema, I'm Chad Birger. Until next time, go Cougars.